Hello, I'm Chris Januszewski and welcome to the Rebellious Times Podcast. Today we've got Josh Hill, CEO of SuperHired, on the call. Josh is over in Australia there. How's things in Australia right now?
Beautiful. It's warming up, springtime. It's perfect for gardening actually right now, which I know we're going to get into, but this is my favorite time of the year, so I'm doing well. It's great to
We'll
be
get
here.
into gardening. This is our gardening episode, funnily enough. So yeah, I'm excited for that in a kind of weird way. But let's kick this off. Find out a little bit about you, kind of way from how you ended up building a startup in the HR space.
Yes, so I've had a bit of a wacky career, I guess, up until this point. Starting in the military. So I went to the Defense Force Academy, which for US folks is like the West Point equivalent in the US. So I went to the academy in Australia, studied business, then went to the Royal Military College, where we studied to be a general service officer, like an infantry officer. And then I went and was in the military for 10 years. And there I led soldiers and was part of battalions, so infantry focused operations, and got to a point where I was a bit tired of the same people, the same problems, and the environment as a whole was a bit monotonous and very bureaucratic, very hierarchical. And I got to a stage where I wanted to change and was very interested in marketing and the concept of communications and people, and all of these concepts were kind of floating around my head. At the time, I listened to this podcast called Perpetual Traffic, which is a marketing podcast. Applied for a role at that company, and then that was kind of my out, and have been there for 5 years, I think, 5 to 6 years, and eventually kind of made my way through the marketing components and landed back pretty much full circle in HR. And HR, I wouldn't say in the traditional sense. I would say HR in, I guess, the progressive sense, you know, the people and culture titles. There's so many titles going around these days for HR, but have been in this seat for now a few years as the head of people. And more recently, you know, having had a lot of hiring experience, have just started to see with the advent of AI and the trajectory of HR itself and how it's been progressing over the years, just some of the things that are really systemically broken with how HR does or leads hiring as a function. And SuperHired is a company in which is trying to tackle some of those systemic issues, which I'm sure we'll get into. And SuperTrained, as well as a kind of like a sister company of SuperHired, which is focused on AI and automation. And both of those have kind of found their groove together to conduct hiring in a manner that's still really human-centric and human-led, but is augmented by AI quite heavily, as opposed to the opposite, which I'm seeing a lot right now, which is very AI-led recruitment services, which I think is a misnomer and potentially very catastrophic.
Well, HR is an interesting part of any organization. You know, it's often the first person you meet and the last person you see before you leave. It can be. And hiring, so I've applied for many jobs in my life. I've had quite a few jobs. It's a very broken system from my experience, in that it's different every time. And it feels like half the time everybody's wasting everybody's time. You've got really highly paid people, sometimes with companies like, platforms like eBay or Amazon. You'll be doing 5 or 6 interviews with people whose hourly rate is, astronomical. And then you come out the other end of it. Maybe you don't get the job. Maybe you do get the job. That's great. Maybe you probably don't get the job, right? Because there's hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. and then you don't know why you don't get the job, because they're not allowed to tell you what you didn't do well, where you missed out.
Yes.
And so it's, people spend a lot of time, especially people who are searching for jobs, spend a lot of time, and it's you almost wonder, should it be something they get paid for, right? When I was at WooCommerce, Woo had a really interesting way of hiring, because they actually they gave you a task, like a mini project, up to 20 hours. And even if you don't get the job, they actually pay you for the time that you spend. It's not, it's not your hourly rate, but it's something. It's an acknowledgement that you're making a personal investment in the company and to give you something back. Anyway, I didn't want to kind of derail there, but I have my, own experience.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, there's a lot of that going around. I don't know many people that have good hiring experiences these days. That would be the anomaly. I think traditional recruitment is so focused on the wrong metrics, and I know I'm gonna speak in a lot of probably expletives like throughout this conversation in terms of like making big calls as to like hiring is broken, but you look at how a lot of companies view what successful hiring is, and you'll get the anecdotes like, oh, it's about quality and it's about time to hire and it's about this and it's about a lot of recruitment is focused on placing roles very quickly and viewing the entire process as a means to quickly fill a seat in a company, as opposed to really understanding like what the seat actually needs to be achieving in the company. Fully really diving in with like this discovery mindset as to considering every dimension that's feasible, the vision of the company, the culture, the dynamics of the team, the department this seat is going to be situated in, and exactly what that product looks like that you're offering a potential candidate. And then actually facilitating the discovery on the candidate side as well, and not just forcing things down people's throats, assuming that it's right for everyone or that everyone wants a piece of this, because actually candidates have their own idea of what work looks like to them and what an ideal work profile is that they wish to have at a company as well. So for me, it's very much more of a matchmaking exercise than it is we need to do this quickly. It's a result. It's an assembly line. All of this methodology, it's very industrial era. It's very inputs to production framed, which is, I think, is the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned to me before, really interesting the way you framed it as your work as a product philosophy as a way of kind of addressing this. Could you please explain a little bit about what that is?
Yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. Work as a product is definitely by no means something that I came up with, but it's something that seems to be emerging quite heavily at the moment across progressive HR people and companies, where quite simply it considers work, the unit of work or the activity of work that is done in an organization, as a product to be intentionally designed, developed, sold, produced, and delivered to your customers, which in this case are your people. Companies put so much emphasis, as they should, on all of the functions that produce results to clients external to a business, um, without necessarily considering and weighting the fact that 60 to 70% of their main expense is the people that conduct the work. And if the people that are in the business producing the service or the value that your customers are buying off you, if that is the biggest cost and the biggest expenditure, and something that also worth adding is highly emotional and variable because we're dealing with humans here, not tools, not inputs to production like on an assembly line, then it should be intentionally designed. Work should be intentionally curated. It should be highly tailored to the specific company that you have, the culture that you're in, the industry that you're in, even intra-company, the dynamics you have between teams, the leaders that leave their marks on teams, the social dynamics within a team. Like there's so many different variables that go into what is the actual work product that you're offering. So when you put together a job description, what you'll see these days is a one-pager that says, hey, this is our vision. This is our mission. These are your responsibilities. Our company does X for these customers, and that's it. And you somehow, we expect that document is rigorous enough to demonstrate exactly who you need and what you need for that specific role in that context. And it's just far below what we need in terms of marketing and selling the work product, which is kind of where hiring comes in.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like you say, when you see the job descriptions and you see a vision and a mission, you never look at a vision and a mission and think, "Ooh, I don't like that vision." I'm going to go and look for a different.
That's
I'm
right.
not going to apply. Right? It's basically, to me, it's almost like they put it in there to get you a little bit excited, to show that the company's got a bit of ambition and a bit of a plan,
Mm.
Doesn't directly translate as to whether or not you want the role. You want the role because you want whatever compensation, you know, your chances of developing your career and to be working in the arena that you want.
Yes, exactly. And that's a really important point, because I guess the way we think through it at SuperHired at the moment is you have two profiles, right? So if we take a step back and reconsider and reorient hiring as a process of matchmaking, because really that's what it is, right? You're trying to match an environment, an opportunity, a seat in a company, but not just a company, in a department, in a team, in that specific context. You're trying to match that to the right person that can come in, that wants to do the role, that has the ability to do the role, and that really understands exactly the type of environment that they're stepping into. So they're not blindsided. And it really is a matchmaking process. And in order to facilitate that, you need to do a huge amount of discovery on what the actual work product is you're offering. So the right the right person profile, like what person do you need or do you think you need, and what work product is associated with that from the company side, and really understanding that, and then having a right work profile that the candidate has, and they understand of themselves what type of work they want, and the company leads that discovery process to determine if there's a match. And a lot of people don't understand what their right work profile is. I still don't truly understand why I subscribe to what I'm doing. You know, like Tier 11, I work there, I get all these different perks from my subscription to Tier 11. I got all these different perks from my subscription to my military career. But eventually I got to a point where I was like, you know, this subscription product, this work product doesn't fit my right work profile, doesn't fit what I'm after in terms of my ambition, my financial security, my all these tendencies as to like where I want to be progressing, what type of environments I like to step into, what type of teammates I want to be around. And there was a mismatch. And when you have a mismatch, you cancel your subscription. And what we aim to do here with this work as a product methodology and this way of thinking is, instead of rushing to a result and trying to fill a seat and using these artifacts that were made for like assembly line industrial era recruitment, we're advocating for a process where you need to slow down. You need to truly understand, first and foremost, do I even need to hire a role? Because that is a solution amongst many other potential solutions. But if you do get to a point where you're like, do I actually need to hire? Then you need to double down and understand, well, what is the work product that we're offering? And let's define that in detail. And let's use that to help work with candidates to identify if that's the right fit for them.
So how in practice does this kind of come to fruition? How do you automate this to create a repeatable process that, you know, achieves these goals?
Yeah, and this is a challenge, because what we're talking about here is an endeavor that is trying to move away from over-indexing an IQ-led approach, which is purely quantitative data that you can scrape from a resume and from a surface level interview. And we're talking about going deeper here in a qualitative manner and conducting discovery to get to the root of what a business needs and what a person wants. In order to do that, it takes resource, and it takes intention, and it takes time. You can automate certain components, and that's what we're experimenting with at the moment. I think if you're familiar with activities like the Colby or Clifton Strengths and these type of connotative personality assessments, you know, there are things that people can do asynchronously, that candidates can do, that have proven to create signals and data as to how they think and how they act and what type of environment they would be able to deploy their skills in. So I think in order to scale an approach like this, you need to be intentional with regards to like what needs to remain emotionally led, like EQ led, like what where you need to have humans involved to dig deeper, and what you can augment and offload to AI, and which I believe is central to kind of scaling things like this. What I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, which I think is dangerous, is a lot of companies and a lot of investors throwing money into AI automation in recruitment that is purely just allowing the current system and status quo to pedal faster. And if you take, for instance, like, I think it was Juicebox AI just got a $36 million Series A. It doesn't actually solve the core issues with hiring. All it does is allows recruiter to find people based on surface level keywords faster. It doesn't actually facilitate deeper discovery in terms of the right work profile and the matchmaking and everything we've discussed. It just allows people to find people faster and then continue to manifest the same broken process. So there's issues with regards to scaling when people are going straight to AI. My belief is it's the first principles is what we need to get back to really understand this philosophy of matchmaking and work as a product. And really that is discovery-led, and it needs to be discovery-led, human-led, AI augmented.
Thank you. It's really interesting to think about this conceptually as to, like you say, not just pushing what you're already doing not so well faster and thinking, hey, we've got a result here. I'm interested to get your perspective. So a friend of mine, she works at Apple, and she said that when they recruit people, like you type your Myers-Briggs or these other tests where you're in different quadrants, her perspective was that pretty much everybody falls in the same quadrant. So Apple
really?
is a certain kind of person, and maybe it's similar with other big tech companies. I'm interested to know your perspective on corporations hiring sort of diverse skill sets and kind of a mix, as opposed to, oh, this type of person seems to work. Pretty good program manager. Everybody should be a program manager. Let's hire all those people. Like, could AI systems head down that path? And is the value in trying to open up like a diverse personalities and approaches to different?
Yeah. I think there is a risk when we talk about diversity. I mean, the way I look at diversity is neurological. It has basis in neurological grounds. Like, we want diversity in the way we think in an organization, because that leads to better decision making. That's proven. The risk here is that when we over leverage a single source of truth for recruitment, we risk homogeneity in our hiring processes by not having enough signals to triangulate like the fit for the role. So what I think is important when we talk about work as a product and matchmaking and these different profiles is that you need to have diversity in the methods of collecting data. And I think when we look at traditional methods of recruitment, I don't think they disappear. I think it's still important to talk about skills, but they need to be investigated in the context in which they're deployed. I don't think it's enough to talk about, you was a software engineer at this company. Okay, then he must be a good software engineer. Incorrect. He was a software engineer at this company. I want to know what that company was like. I want to know the environment of that company, the stresses. I want to know their work product. I want to know the exact circumstances in which those skills were deployed that you had success, so I can look at my work product and see the similarities or the gaps, and then ascertain if you would be a right fit coming to my organization, or at least it gives me some talking points and areas to focus. Credentials, yes, you've got a master's here, a business there, like a degree here. Some jobs it's more important than others. Not really something I care too much about when I'm recruiting, unless it's like a specific role in which you need those credentials. But when you start to look at all these little dots and you input more intentional forms of discovery, like we were talking about with regards to really understanding what do you want from work? And it's not just surface level. It's like, no, what do you actually want? Oh, I want to have financial freedom. Okay, that's too surface level. Why do you want financial freedom? Oh, because I want to be able to fly my family and do this and, holiday here and do that. Okay, why do you want to do that? Oh, because I value this, I value that, and understanding these driving forces of like why someone or what someone gets from their work product. When you start to look at all these things and then you do the same due diligence from the company's perspective, you're able to hire, I believe, with a more diverse and hire with more diversity, particularly from the company side. if you are drilling down with each seat, if you're drilling down to truly what you need, then you're kind of bypassing this homogeneity because you're doing deep due diligence, as opposed to blanketly saying, I need a software engineer like this across my whole company. It's, I need a software engineer specific to that department, this team, that seat, and I'm considering all of the contextual factors that are going to be influencing that specific work product. So you could imagine that ultimately, if you have 300 people in your company, you've got 300 work products, because every person is different and every work product is slightly different. So if you take this analogy and this methodology right to the end, it starts to become pretty intimidating, because you're like, wow, I need to be intentional about designing everyone's work experience. And ultimately, I think that's the way we need to go into the future. It's, yes, we do. We are no longer working in assembly lines in factories, yet we hire for it. We manage performance like it. We are now focused much more on knowledge work, creative work, team-based. We want to give people autonomy. We want to do all these things. If we want those things, we need to be willing to re-engineer and redesign the paradigm of how we construct the environments for these people to be able to do those things.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting perspective, and AI kind of gives us the possibility of doing this if it's kind of laid in right into the automations. But so like you say, you have 300 work products, you're going to have 20 hiring managers all trying to figure out how to write the job descriptions, and then they're going to have to, assess the candidates individually. And I think and especially when you get to a smaller company where, you've got a 1,000-person company, you hire a couple of bad hires, you shift them out over time. It's not the end of the world. The machine doesn't stop. But if you're in a 5, 10-person company, 20-person company, hire a couple of bad hires, it can have a big impact.
It completely changes the orientation of the company. I mean, I found that out myself. With SuperHired, I think we got like 6 people now. I mean, the due diligence I put into those initial people was astronomical, because it's like you can't afford to not have someone that is multiplying everyone around them early on. It's more concentrated. It's like if you've got a big company, a big glass of water, and you add a little bit of cordial in, or I don't know what it's called in the States. Is it called cordial?
I cordial when I lived in England. Over here, I don't think we have cordial. No, everybody just drinks water or soda.
The Ribena. I don't know.
All right, I am a big Ribena guy.
Yeah, if you've got a big base of employees, you add a bad apple, it's going to have an effect, but it's going to be disproportionate compared to if you have, 5 people, you add another one. It's so, yeah, small to medium sized companies, they need to get this right more than anyone.
And what sort of companies do you work with?
Small to medium sized companies at the moment. Yeah, we haven't touched any enterprise clients. I honestly, I think it's a challenge working at that level at the moment because of the institutionalization of HR, and I think the innovator's dilemma with regards to thinking and just this slow moving. I think this is a shift that needs to occur across an entire industry over years, and I think the best way to do it is through small to medium sized companies that can directly see the effects of treating not just recruitment in this manner, but it's the whole employee journey, the whole employee life cycle. The way we manage and lead within companies needs to completely change. And I mean, that's another conversation which kind of extends across the whole employee journey, but it really is a complete paradigm shift. And small to medium-sized companies, unfortunately, when it comes to recruitment, are largely priced out of really good talent acquisition services. And founders are not experts. They become good because they have to. But founders are not hiring to this level of due diligence because they don't have the time, and it's not a familiar, I guess, focus area. So what we're trying to do is start by really bringing this to small to medium-sized companies to drive impact and to demonstrate that this is a sustainable and feasible way to hire, whilst also figuring out how to actually do it at scale. Because as you can imagine, if you've got 1,000 work products, how do you even conceive of trying to maintain that and deliver that and drive that level of customization and tailored work experience across an entire company. And that's when we need to rethink the concept of a manager. I don't think it's completely devoid from the traditional sense of what a manager is responsible for. They become product managers and managers of the work product.
It's interesting because all this kind of leads to the need for more and more data. The more data you have, the better you can build a strategy and implement it, and to help, give your manager a copilot to help him or her do the right things. And I'm almost envisioning a world where, your HR AI is plugged into Slack, it's plugged into emails, it's making sense of everything that's being done. And then it's feeding back into the strategy at the top level and kind of filtering down that way. And do you think maybe that's a place that we will end up? Is it going to go that way?
I think inherently we will be having AI and more and more and more augmentation with our day-to-day with these tools. I don't think there's any way where that's not going to happen. And I mean, we're already seeing it. I think there is a bit of a hype when it comes to the ability of a lot of these tools, and I think we're probably reaching the precipice of this, of like the hype cycle when it comes to like companies investing millions of dollars and realizing, okay, well, we could achieve some level of performance increase and efficiency, but ultimately these tools are still capped, right? And we still need humans in the seats doing the things and delivering value for clients and customers. But I think a really good place for augmentation now is in being a co-pilot for conducting and for managers conducting discovery internal to their teams and using that to make sense of how they're feeling, how their people are feeling, sentiment analysis, capturing data, helping them augment their own discovery. And I do see that as a massive opportunity, and also a massively underserved area in businesses is this mindset that managers shouldn't be coming at their jobs as a manager. Management in the old paradigm, this whole definition of having to manage someone like that, I think is dying, and it should die. And instead, it's not managing, it's enabling. It is augmenting the people. It's reducing barriers. It's reducing obstacles. And it's all discovery led. And again, this ties back into the work as a product methodology, right? It's like that manager becomes a product designer, a work designer that is supposed to be clearing the way and allowing people to step into that profile of work that the company needs, and allowing that gap between the work that they want to do and the work that the company needs and is offering to close as much as possible so there is a match. And when that starts to widen, the product manager steps in and says, okay, how can I design this in a better way so you're getting what you want and the company's getting what they want? And sometimes there's not going to be a match. But a lot of that can be augmented, I think, by AI because it's all knowledge, it's all data, it's all information that's captured via calls like this, via interactions, via a lot of the tools that we deploy naturally. I think being able to collect all of that information and then have the product manager use that to develop the work product, I think, something I think people are exploring now, which is really good.
Brilliant. This is exciting
Yeah.
time. Tell me a little bit more about, so obviously you're based in Adelaide, but you were just over in the UK, in my motherland. Which markets do you serve with SuperHired right now? And where is your team based?
Yeah. So we've got so the co-founder Tom is based in LA. He's US based, and we have the technical side of the business that is building a product. We're building a HR a tool that facilitates all of this stuff: the discovery, the matchmaking, the recruiting. That team that's building that is predominantly based in Brazil, and they're excellent. They're really, really, really good. And the recruiters that we've got are also based. We've got two in Serbia that are joining the team, and they're amazing. So there's Yeah, there's about 6 or 8 of us. We serve, like I said, small to medium-sized companies. Um, there's no limit right now in terms of who we won't work with in terms of industry or niche or, and there's no real cap on what type of role we hire either. I think this process is so universal, um, because it is a fundamental reframe of how things are done. I think what we've enjoyed is just getting stuck in and pushing this methodology to its limits and just seeing, how far we can push it and where it works, where it doesn't work. I mean, this method of thinking is so fresh, and the tools to do it don't exist. So we're kind of paving the way in that regard. I know that there are a lot of other people working on the same problems, which is amazing. At what's interesting at like different levels of the employee journey, like SuperHired is kind of focused on the front end, like sales and marketing of the product. And then we've got a lot of tools when it comes to like the production of the product, right? The managing and the discovery of the actual work experience and how it's being delivered. There's this company called Beamable. I think they're Australian as well, which have developed a product to augment managers, what we were speaking about previously, to ascertain what people enjoy and don't enjoy, what gives them energy, what doesn't give them energy with all the tasks that they're doing. So yeah, that we're kind of focused front of house and we're servicing that client base, but there is a need to have this methodology across the entire customer journey, really.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing. I'm interested to follow your journey. It is a competitive space, but everything's competitive now, and everybody's trying to figure out, how to take advantage of the technical leaps that have been made. I wonder if we might be able to switch it up to gardening discussion now.
Yes.
So
I've been waiting for this. Yeah. No.
It's always important to me, on the Rebellious Times podcast to go a bit beyond just, startups and tech and founder, work history and talk a little bit, get a little bit behind the person. And it's always nice to know how the CEO kind of detaches and enjoys himself. And when you mentioned that you like gardening, I'm not saying I'm a great gardener by any means, but it is a kind of a happy, chill place for me. So I get interested to hear about what you're growing right now.
Yeah. Oh man, what am I growing? I'll start over there. So I'm a big fan of roses. I didn't used to be. So, I mean, roses, a lot of, I'm one of those gardeners, which is like very eclectic. I don't plan meticulously like what I'm going to put. I just kind of buy seeds and buy things that look good and I just throw them everywhere. And then it just kind of ends up looking nice. But what I like about the garden that we've got at the moment is there's always something different. There's always something happening, So I very much, I enjoy making myself a morning coffee, going for a walk out the front, out the back. And there'll always be something new, like this little flower or that vegetable started to come out or something. So it's, it's a really nice experience. We have a Seville orange tree out the front. So bitter oranges, I didn't know what they were until I tried to eat one. I was like, this is disgusting. And then I figured out that, oh my gosh, this is what you need to make marmalade. So I just made some proper English, proper thick peel, thick cut marmalade, which is delicious.
Oh, fantastic.
But I've had lots of failures. I harvested some potatoes yesterday and they look more like little peas rather than proper
What's
potatoes.
the climate like? I've never been to Adelaide. What's the climate like over there?
It's dry. It's like Mediterranean. It's very seasonal. Yeah. So I actually prefer it. It's quite nice because at the East Coast where I grew up in Sydney, it starts getting quite humid, and the further north you get, it becomes subtropical, then pretty much full tropical up in Darwin, up the very north. But yeah, summers here get super, super hot. So, and very dry. So the plants obviously don't do well, but I've got, actually this will be the first year through a summer where I've got a proper irrigation system set up. So I won't have to be out there watering every second day, which I'm looking forward to, and the plants will survive.
So I'm in Austin in Texas, and it sounds like it's quite similar. It's very dry and it's very hot in summer. Last year, I think it was 40 degrees Celsius for probably at least 3 months, maybe 4 months without a drop of rain. And so it's good for growing a cactus, right? I'm good at cacti.
Yeah.
And they even produce these little mini ones that I clip off and then plant somewhere else, and it always seems to work, which is amazing. But pretty much everything else I've grown has been murdered. And when I first moved, yeah, yeah, I had this beautiful grass growing. I'd go out and water it, and we got an irrigation system, but we took our eye off the ball. I think a pipe burst or something on the irrigation. And I'm like, ah, now the grass is dead. And my wife, she's looking at me like, when are you going to get it fixed? And I'm saying, well, look, I've just started a business this year. I'm not fixing anything until making a lot more money, you know. So, but I still enjoy getting out there and kind of, just relaxing and being outdoors. I think I'm stuck in the house so much during the day that just to be out there
Yeah.
and tinkering is nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it is a good disconnect. Like it's very meditative, I think. Um, I had this moment like a month ago. I had some snow peas, like just some seeds, and I planted them along this trellis that we have. I wasn't expecting anything because I was like, I'll just put them in. And now I think we've harvested like 2 kilos of snap peas, and it just is, it's like 2 meter high all along this trellis. And I was like, isn't this incredible that this can, like the genetic information, this whole thing is just in this tiny little pea that you just put into the ground and it just grows. And I was just sitting out there for like 5 minutes, just like, that's insane. It doesn't make sense. But that's the type of thing that I get from gardening. It's like wonder, curiosity, it's super engaging. It's fun. Yeah, I'm happy to have found it, to be
I always
honest.
have this. I think probably most people living in the United States at some point have this fantasy about moving and off the grid, growing your own food, getting really good at it, growing some nice food.
Yeah.
You're out every day, you're growing your food, you got some chickens, like even you got a little stream coming past, you can get your water or a well or whatever. So when the
Mm,
apocalypse comes, which it seems to, if you're to follow Twitter, every other week the apocalypse is coming. It would be nice
right.
to be able to do that. So it'd be nice to have the skills to be able to know you could grow your own food.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm a bit far off that, to be honest, but um I mean, some things I grow just for the interest, like the curiosity. Like I grew an artichoke. Um, and it took like, oh my gosh, it took like 8 or 9 months. It was ridiculous how long it took to get this, like, just this handful of artichoke. And I was like,
If you starve
that's,
to death,
that's a
kind of.
long, that's a long, yeah, that's right. Right. But we cut it up. We prepared it. I didn't realize you had to scoop half of it out, to be honest. And then we made this dip with it. And we sat down and we had this artichoke dip that we grew with some cheese and crackers, and it was a glass of wine. It was such an amazing experience. It was gone
Fantastic.
within 30 seconds, and that was
After
8 months of
8 months,
work.
you can grow a baby in 8 months. You grew an artichoke.
Yeah, I know. That's right. Take your pick. Yeah.
Right, Josh, it's been amazing. Thanks so much for joining me today and telling me, your perspective on how we're going to revolutionize HR. Love it. All the best to you, and I'll be following your business.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the opportunity. It's been great to chat. Thanks very much.
Take care.